When the stars went silent, the morning coffee was still steaming in Admiral Sarah Chun's cup when every screen on Earth went dark. Then they lit up again, displaying something that would change humanity forever. The face that appeared wasn't human. It was elongated, with silver skin that seemed to shift like liquid mercury, and eyes that glowed with an inner blue fire. When it spoke, the words came in perfect English, though the voice carried an otherworldly resonance that made listeners' bones ache. I am Overlord Zephyros of the Kithaeron Collective. Your species has reached the threshold of galactic notice. You will surrender your planet, your resources, and your population to collective authority within 72 of your hours. Compliance will ensure your survival as a labor force. Resistance will ensure your extinction. The message lasted exactly 90 seconds. Then the screens went dark again, leaving 7 billion people in stunned silence out in her office deep beneath. The Colorado mountains. Admiral Chun set down her coffee cup with hands that barely trembled. She had been preparing for this day for 15 years, though she had hoped it would never come. Around her, the Crimson Command Center erupted into home. Controlled chaos as officers and technicians sprang into action. Admiral, we're receiving priority communications from every world leader, reported Lieutenant Commander David Park, his young face pale but determined. They're demanding to know about Project Crimson Fleet. Chun stood slowly, her gray hair pulled back in a regulation bun, her uniform bearing no insignia that any government would recognize. At 55, she had spent half her life preparing for this moment. The Crimson Fleet existed in the spaces between official documents, funded by black budgets so deep they barely existed on paper, crewed by volunteers who had legally died years ago. Signal the fleet, she commanded. Full activation. All ships to battle stations. Across the solar system, hidden bases suddenly blazed with activity. On the dark side of the moon, massive hangar doors slid open, revealing sleek warships that had never seen sunlight. In the asteroid belt, mining stations shed their disguises, transforming into weapon platforms. Near Jupiter's moons, research stations dropped their scientific pretense and activated military-grade shields and cannons. The flagship of this secret armada was the Defiant Dawn, a 2-kilometer-long dreadnought that had been under construction for a decade. Its captain, Marcus Rivera, was a man who officially died in a training accident 5 years ago. In reality, he was one of Earth's finest tactical minds, recruited into the Crimson Fleet when conventional military thinking wasn't enough. Rivera to Crimson Command. His voice crackled through the encrypted comm system. Defiant Dawn is operational. All systems green. Request permission to decloak. Chun looked at the tactical display showing Earth's orbital space. Satellite feeds revealed massive ships materializing in the outer system. The Kithaeron Advanced Scout Fleet. 12 vessels, each one larger than Earth's biggest aircraft carrier, drifting ominously beyond Mars orbit. Permission granted, Captain. Show them we're not helpless prey. The Defiant Dawn shimmered into existence above Earth's North Pole, its hull a deep crimson that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ship's appearance sent shockwaves through every space monitoring station on the planet. Within minutes, confused and panicked reports flooded government channels. In the United Nations building. Emergency sessions convened as world leaders demanded answers about the mysterious warship. But Admiral Chun had no time for politics. Her long-range sensors were painting a terrifying picture. Admiral, called Dr. Elena Vasquez from her science station. The brilliant physicist had joined Crimson Fleet after her theoretical work on quantum weaponry was deemed too dangerous for public knowledge. I'm reading energy signatures from the Kithaeron ships. Their technology is at least 2 centuries ahead of anything we have in conventional forces. Chun nodded grimly. She had expected this. The Crimson Fleet wasn't built to match alien technology pound for pound. It was built to exploit human advantages, unpredictability, adaptability, and the willingness to fight dirty when survival was on the line. Dr. Vasquez, status on the Ghost Protocol weapons? Operational, but untested in real combat conditions. We're basically using technology we barely understand against an enemy we know nothing about. Then we'd better learn fast. The first test came sooner than expected. 3 Kitharan scout ships accelerated toward Earth, their intent clearly hostile. They moved with impossible grace, seeming to bend space around themselves as they approached. Captain Rivera's voice cut through the tension. Crimson Command, we have incoming hostiles. Permission to engage? Granted. All ships engage at will. Show them what humans do when cornered. The Defiant Dawn opened fire with weapons that had been theoretical just months before. Quantum disruptors tore through space, followed by gravitational pulse cannons that could tear apart molecular bonds. The lead Kitharan ship took the full barrage across its bow. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien vessel continued its approach, seemingly undamaged. Then its hull began to ripple and distort, sections of it simply ceasing to exist as the quantum weapons took effect. The ship listed to one side, venting atmosphere and strange, luminous gases. But the aliens weren't defenseless. Return fire came in the form of coherent plasma beams that could melt through any known material. The Defiant Dawn's experimental shields held for seconds before failing, and only Rivera's desperate evasive maneuvers saved the ship from total destruction. Hull breach on decks 7 through 9, reported the damage control officer. We're venting atmosphere, and the port engine is offline. Rivera gritted his teeth. All hands brace for impact maneuvers. We're going to ram the bastards. But before he could execute the desperate gambit, 2 more Crimson Fleet ships decloaked nearby. The Vengeful Spirit and Terra's Wrath opened fire simultaneously, their combined firepower overwhelming the damaged Kitharan vessel's defenses. The alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash of exotic energy. The remaining 2 scout ships retreated, but not before launching what appeared to be communication buoys toward the outer system. They were sending word back to their masters that Earth had teeth. Admiral Chun allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before reality set in. They had won the first skirmish, but at a terrible cost. A Defiant Dawn was badly damaged, and they had revealed their existence to both the aliens and Earth's governments. The secret was out. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Park called out, his voice tight with worry. We're receiving transmissions from the Kitharan scout ships. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. The voice of Overlord Zephyros filled the command. Center once more, but now there was something different in its tone. Surprise, perhaps even respect. Humans of Earth, your hidden warriors have drawn first blood. This changes nothing. In 68 hours, the Collective's war fleet will arrive. Your courage is noted, but courage alone will not save you from extinction. Surrender now, and we will grant you the honor of dying as warriors rather than as cattle. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Dr. Vasquez spoke first. Admiral, based on the energy readings from those scout ships, a full Kitharan war fleet will have firepower equivalent to everything humanity has ever built, multiplied by a factor of 10. Chun looked around at her officers, seeing fear mixed with determination in their faces. These men and women had volunteered to die for Earth, knowing they might never be recognized for their sacrifice. Then we'd better make sure we're ready. For them, she said quietly. Dr. Vasquez, how long do we need to fully deploy the Crimson Fleet? All ships operational in 48 hours, assuming we can repair the damage to Defiant Dawn. Make it happen. Captain Rivera, can your ship fight? Rivera's voice came through the comm with characteristic determination. Give me 12 hours and some hole patches, Admiral. We'll be ready to dance again. Chun nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. Her voice would reach every Crimson Fleet vessel scattered across the solar system, every crew member who had given up their old lives to defend Earth. All stations, this is Admiral Chun. The enemy knows we exist now. They're coming with everything they have, expecting to crush us like insects. They don't understand what they're facing. They see a young species, barely out of its cradle, with primitive technology and no galactic experience. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing the positions of her hidden fleet. They're right about some things. We are young. Our technology is primitive compared to theirs. But they've made one crucial mistake. They think that makes us weak. They don't understand that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one with nothing left to lose. Across the solar system, crew members listened with grim satisfaction as their admiral continued. We're not going to fight their kind of war. We're not going to line up in neat formations and trade shots like gentlemen. We're going to fight like humans. We're going to be unpredictable, vicious, and utterly relentless. We're going to hit them where they don't expect it, with weapons they've never seen, using tactics they can't comprehend. The Admiral's voice hardened with resolve. In 68 hours, the Kithaeron Collective is going to learn why Earth has never been conquered. They're going to discover what happens when you threaten humanity's children. And when this is over, they're going to carry the scars of this battle back to whatever hole they crawled out of, as a warning to any other species that thinks humans make easy prey. She cut the transmission and turned back to her staff. Now let's get to work. We have a war to win. As reports flooded in from Crimson Fleet bases across the solar system, Admiral Chun allowed herself one last moment to think about what they were attempting. They were about to face an enemy that had conquered entire star systems, with a secret fleet that existed only in the shadows of human military might. But as she watched her officers coordinate defensive positions and weapon deployments with quiet efficiency, she felt something she hadn't expected: hope. These people had volunteered to fight impossible odds, not for glory or recognition, but simply because it was right. That kind of determination had carried humanity through every existential crisis in its history. The stars might be going silent, but humanity's voice was about to ring across the galaxy. Asterisk, blood in the void. The Kithaeron war fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts, their ships blotting out the stars beyond Mars' orbit. Admiral Chun watched the tactical display with a mixture of awe and terror as the enemy formation took shape. 200 vessels, ranging from destroyers the size of city blocks to dreadnoughts that dwarfed Earth's largest space stations. God, whispered Lieutenant Commander Park. How are we supposed to fight that? Admiral Chun kept her expression steady, though her heart was hammering against her ribs. The Crimson Fleet numbered 47 ships total, and even their largest vessels were dwarfed by the Kithaeron formation. On paper, it wasn't a battle. It was an execution. We fight smart, she replied calmly. Dr. Vasquez, report on the Ghost Protocol weapons. The physicist looked up from her console, her face pale but determined. All quantum disruptors are online and calibrated. The gravitational pulse cannons are functioning within acceptable parameters. But Admiral, we only have enough exotic matter to power these weapons for one major engagement. Then we'd better make it count. Captain Rivera, status on the fleet? Rivera's voice came through the com with forced confidence. Defiant Dawn is operational at 80% capacity. The fleet is deployed in defensive formation Alpha 7, with stealth ships positioned throughout the asteroid belt. We're as ready as we're going to be. Chun nodded and opened a channel to Earth's surface. Despite the chaos of the past 68 hours, the world's leaders had managed to establish a unified command structure. It was probably the first time in human history that every nation had agreed on something. This is Admiral Chun to Earth. Command. Enemy fleet has arrived and is taking position. We are initiating defensive operations. The response came from Secretary General Williams of the United Nations. Admiral, the Security Council has authorized you to take any action necessary. To defend Earth, the entire planet is behind you. Chun almost smiled at that. 3 days ago, these same leaders would have arrested her for treason if they had known about the Crimson Fleet. Now they were betting humanity's future on a force that officially didn't exist. Understood, Earth Command. Crimson Fleet will hold. The line, the first probe, came an hour later. A single Kithaeron destroyer accelerated toward Earth, its weapons powered but not yet firing. It was scanning, testing, trying to understand what had happened to their scout ships. Chun let it come closer, watching as it passed through the outer asteroid belt. Hidden among the rocks, 3 Crimson Fleet stealth ships tracked its movement. Let them think we're cowering behind Earth's defenses, she murmured to her tactical officer. When they commit to their main attack, that's when we spring the trap. The Kithaeron destroyer reached Mars orbit and began intensive scanning of Earth's defensive satellites. What it found was exactly what Chun wanted it to find: a handful of hastily militarized space stations and some crude missile platforms. Nothing that would pose a serious threat to its galactic-level invasion force. The probe ship turned and accelerated back toward the main fleet, presumably to report on Earth's pathetic defenses. Chun watched it go with satisfaction. The aliens were about to make their first crucial mistake. 2 hours later, the entire Kithaeron fleet began moving toward Earth. They came in a massive wedge formation, with their heaviest dreadnoughts at the point and smaller ships spreading out to cover the flanks. It was an impressive display of coordinated military might, designed to crush any resistance through sheer, overwhelming force. They're not even trying to be subtle about it, observed Captain Rivera from the Defiant Dawn's bridge. They really think we're just going to roll over. Their mistake, Chun replied. All ships maintain stealth protocols until my signal. Let them get closer. The Kithaeron fleet swept past Mars, accelerating toward Earth with obvious confidence. Their flagship, a massive vessel that looked like a cathedral made of black metal and energy fields, led the formation. Long-range sensors identified it as the command ship of Overlord Zephyros himself. Admiral, Dr. Vasquez called out, I'm reading massive energy buildup in their forward weapons arrays. They're preparing to bombard Earth from lunar orbit. Chun felt ice in her stomach. If those weapons reached Earth, no amount of planetary shielding would save the billions of people below. All ships, prepare for Ghost Protocol engagement. We're going to hit them with everything we have. She activated the fleet-wide communication system one last time. Crimson Fleet, this is Admiral Chun. In a few minutes, we're going to engage. An enemy that outnumbers us 5-1, with technology that surpasses our own. By all conventional military analysis, we should lose this battle. But we're not fighting by conventional rules. Her voice carried across 47 ships scattered throughout the inner solar system. We're fighting for our home. We're fighting for our families. We're fighting for the right of humanity to exist free and unshackled. The enemy thinks they know what they're facing, but they've never encountered anything like human determination backed into a corner. The Kithaeron fleet was now approaching the asteroid belt, still maintaining their confident formation. Remember your training. Remember your purpose. And remember that today we make history. Crimson Fleet, engage. Space erupted in violent light as 47 human warships decloaked simultaneously. The Kithaeron fleet suddenly found themselves surrounded by enemies that had appeared from nowhere. Their neat formation turned into a death trap. The Defiant. Dawn opened fire first, its quantum disruptors tearing into the nearest Kithaeron cruiser. The alien ship's shields held for seconds before collapsing, and then its hull began to dissolve at the molecular level. Other Crimson Fleet ships added their firepower, gravitational pulse cannons creating distortions in space-time that crushed enemy vessels like tin cans. But the aliens weren't helpless. Their return fire was devastating, coherent plasma beams that could vaporize anything they touched. The Crimson Fleet ship, Terra's Vengeance, took a direct hit and simply ceased to exist, turned to superheated gas in an instant. Hull breach on the Defiant Dawn. Rivera's voice was strained over the comm. We're losing structural integrity on the starboard side. All ships, execute Maneuver Omega, Sean commanded. Scatter and regroup. The Crimson Fleet ships broke formation, using their superior maneuverability to dart between the larger alien vessels. It was a desperate gambit, turning the battle into a chaotic melee where human agility might overcome alien firepower. Doctor Vasquez was working frantically at her console. Admiral, I'm detecting a weakness in their shield harmonics. If we can synchronize our quantum disruptors to the same frequency, we might be able to punch through their defenses. Do it, Chun ordered. All ships, sync your weapons to Science Command frequency. The effect was immediate and devastating. Suddenly, human weapons were cutting through Kitharan shields like they were made of paper. Alien ships began exploding. Throughout the formation, their technological advantage neutralized by human ingenuity. But victory came at a terrible price. The Crimson Fleet was being steadily whittled down, ship after ship destroyed by overwhelming enemy firepower. Of the original 47 vessels, only 23 remained operational. That's when Overlord Zephyros made his own desperate gambit. His massive flagship accelerated directly toward Earth, apparently intending to ram the planet itself rather than accept defeat. Captain Rivera. Chun's voice was deadly calm. Can the Defiant Dawn intercept? We're in no condition for a direct engagement, Admiral. Half our weapons are offline, and we're venting atmosphere from 12 different hull breaches. Chun closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with grim determination. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. The enemy flagship is attempting to reach Earth. I'm authorizing activation of the Omega Protocol. Silence fell over the comm channels. Every Crimson Fleet officer knew what the Omega Protocol meant, the complete sacrifice of the flagship to stop an enemy that threatened Earth directly. Admiral, Rivera's voice was quiet but steady, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor has been mine, Captain. Give them hell. The Defiant Dawn changed course, accelerating directly toward the Kitharan flagship on an intercept trajectory. Its remaining weapons blazed continuously, quantum disruptors carving deep wounds in the alien ship's hull. But it wasn't enough to stop the massive vessel's approach toward Earth. That's when Dr. Vasquez played her final card. Admiral, I'm overloading the quantum core. If we can get close enough to their ship, the explosion should create a cascading quantum reaction that will tear their hull apart from the inside. It was insane, brilliant, and completely untested. In other words, it was perfectly human. The Defiant Dawn closed the final distance to the Kitharan flagship, its hull glowing cherry red from enemy fire. At the last second, Captain Rivera activated the emergency evacuation pods, sending his crew away from the ship that had been their home and fortress. The quantum core explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a brief new star that blazed in the darkness of space. When the light faded, both ships were gone, leaving only expanding clouds of debris. But the sacrifice had achieved its purpose. The Kitharan fleet, leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat. The remaining Crimson Fleet ships harried them all the way to the outer solar system, making sure they understood that any return would be met with the same ferocious resistance. Admiral Chun stood in the Crimson Command Center, watching the tactical display as the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace. Around her, exhausted, Officers were tallying the cost of victory. 29 Crimson Fleet ships destroyed, over 8,000 crew members killed or missing. But Earth was safe. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Park, approached hesitantly. "We're receiving a transmission from the retreating Kitharan fleet." Chun nodded wearily. "Put it through." The face of a different alien appeared on the screen, younger looking than Overlord. Zephyros, with similar silver skin, but lacking the arrogance of the former commander. "I am Sub-Commander King of the Kitharan Collective. You have defeated us today." This outcome was not anticipated. Chun stepped forward, her uniform torn and stained with smoke, but her bearing still proud. "Then you underestimated us. That was your mistake." The alien's expression was unreadable, but when it spoke again, there was something like respect in its voice. "Your species fights with unprecedented ferocity. The collective will reconsider its position regarding your world. This engagement is concluded." The transmission ended, leaving Chun staring at a blank screen. Hours later, as rescue ships searched the debris fields for survivors, and Earth's population celebrated in the streets, Admiral Chun stood alone on the observation deck of the lunar command station. The stars looked different now, not cold and hostile, but full of possibility. Dr. Vasquez joined her, her arm in a sling, but her eyes bright with excitement. "Admiral, the quantum weapon data we gathered during the battle is extraordinary. We've learned more about advanced physics in the last day than humanity has in the past century. The technological advances this will lead to." Chun nodded slowly. "Earth won't be helpless if they come back." "They won't come back," Vasquez said with confidence. "Word of this battle will spread throughout their empire. They'll mark Earth as too dangerous to conquer." Chun smiled for the first time in days. "Good. Let them tell the galaxy that humanity doesn't surrender. Let them spread the word that when you threaten Earth, humans don't just fight back. We fight back harder than you ever imagined possible." As the two women watched, the first transport ships began arriving from Earth's surface, carrying supplies and reinforcements for the Crimson Fleet survivors. The secret was out now, but that was probably for the best. Humanity would face the galaxy united, prepared, and utterly unwilling to bow to any threat. The stars were no longer silent. They carried the echo of human defiance, a message that would reach every corner of the galaxy. Earth stands, Earth fights, Earth endures, and woe to any who would test that resolve again. Asterisk.